Hello everyone and welcome back to another Stradigoy video. We are still continuing our War Scroll series where we are breaking down all the Lumineth War Scrolls. It's the fourth and final part. It's Sevireth and the Hurakan units today. And I'm once again joined by Siegfried. Siegfried, thank you for freeing up some more of your time to talk about a sub-faction that you're very enthusiastic about, right?
Yeah, I'm glad to be here,
Okay.
as always.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. As we mentioned, guys, if you haven't picked up on it so far, we've been doing these War Scroll breakdowns. We've done Teclis, Sonari, and the Riverblades in part 1, Eltharion and all of the Venari stuff in part 2, and then in part 3 we did Alvalenor and the Alrith, and today it's Sevireth and the Hurakan boys. You know, if you've been on the YouTubes, you've seen a bunch of great content creators making fantastic videos about all the War Scrolls, about the Index. We are not an exception to that. I mean, it's not a rare thing. That's what I wanted to say. There is so many great content out there, and I would highly encourage you to also keep watching all of the other stuff that people are making. But for the Stradigoy channel, we always try to do something a little bit different or give you something more than what you might already have seen. And if you followed us through from part 1 to part 3, you've seen that we're working with a rating system of the War Scrolls here. Obviously, it's still very early days, so opinions might and will change. But we're working with a rating system going from 1 to 5 stars. 1 star means that it is a unit that you best avoid putting in your list. 2 stars is a unit that would be fine in the list, but there's probably units in the index that would do the same thing for a cheaper cost or would do better for the same cost. Then a 3-star unit, that's where you want to have most of your units, I guess, units that are pretty good in certain situations. Think of Stone Guard, for example, that are mostly useful when you combine them with different support pieces that support them. You've got 4-star units that are great in most situations and don't actually necessarily need a lot of other pieces to be useful. And then you've got the rare 5-star units that are so amazing that you probably want to consider bringing them in every list, even though there's no synergy with them otherwise. We've seen a couple of 5-star units so far, and I also feel like there is at least one in this video as well, Seek. I'm not sure whether you would agree.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder whether we're thinking of
Sure.
the same one. We'll find out. So, well, we'll find out now. Our first war scroll that we're talking about today is the Sevireth's War Scroll, the Lord of the Seventh Wind. Yeah, he shifted a little bit in abilities, but I would say overall he got a glow up, actually. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even if he's a bit expensive,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think he's worth it. He's
Yeah.
worth it, and that he is overall better than before.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a really interesting piece. So for 350 points, you get a very mobile unit, 18 inches move. So that's come down 6 from his original movement. But still 10 health, 4 up save, which is better than it used to be. He's a monster now, which is a little bit weird, but okay, here we are. He doesn't bracket though, because he only has 10 health. His damage is still pretty good. 4 shots, 2s, 3s, 3 rend, d3 plus 1 damage, which is neat. The range on his bow went down though, and his swirling shards are kind of meh. But that's not what you bring him for. What are you bringing him for then? Well, for a lot of things. First of all, his Living Gale ability is amazing. He cannot be targeted by shooting attacks made by enemy units that are more than 9 inches away. So he's basically a guarded hero, but then instead of 12 inches, it's 9 inches, even though he has a lot of wounds, which is pretty nice. Now, I just want to clarify one thing. In the core rules, the FAQ, does explain that if you cannot target the closest unit with something like covering fire, for example, you must target something else. So you can't use Sevireth to negate covering fire on your other units. That would not work. Unless you bring him within 9 inches, of course. His
Yeah,
ran... Yeah, go.
it will be a bit of a negative play experience.
Yeah,
But
I
that doesn't need to exist.
yeah, exactly. I understand why people thought it might work, because there used to be something like that with the Ideneth, but I'm happy that's not the case here.
Agreed.
Yeah, his rampage ability is somewhat the same, I suppose. I'm not gonna get into it too much. It's interesting, but not amazing. What are you bringing him for then? Well, his Spirit of the Wind ability is exactly the same as the one on the normal Spirit of the Wind, so bring either one of those or both of them if you're Siegfried. And it's actually pretty good. So while friendly Hurakan units are wholly within 12 inches, so that's him, but also all wind charge and such, they can use shoot and or charge abilities, even if they use run or retreat abilities, and they don't take any mortal damage when they're retreating. So that's really good, combined with their Facet of War, Move Like the Wind. That's really strong.
Yeah, it's flexibility level 100
Yeah, yeah.
right there.
Yeah, overall, this is such a strong unit if you consider the fact that he has a 4+ save, a 5-up wards, he can't be targeted by shooting attacks outside of 9 inches. And then, you're moving him 18 inches, shooting with your 12-inch bow, and then with Move of Like the Wind, you move him back 18 inches if you want, or forward or sideward, wherever you want to go. You could actually even run him to move him even further, and then still charge if you wanted to. And then maybe even retreat with Power Through, for example. Very, very potent units.
Yeah, and I mean you could cast speed of his, so he can move 22 inches and run, and then move another 22 inches.
Yeah.
Uh, he's great, and I think one of the greatest buffs he got is his control core,
Yeah.
because back in the old days, you could the opponent could have a single hero on an objective, and if you fluffed your rolls or didn't manage to get a charge or anything, you couldn't get the objective from him. But now, not only will he be able to do just that, even if he don't want or won't be able to kill that hero, be able to get that objective, but he will also it will also make it easier for him to go and take the objective from a shaft unit.
Yeah.
Because now you will only need to kill 6 out of 10. And this is extra important now because there is no battle soak. So there is no I have 10 skinks there, and so I will kill 6 or 7 of them and the other will disappear. No, you have to actually do the work. So that makes a huge difference. And regarding his rampage, yes, it is a bit iffy because you actually need a 3-up on the dice roll. But giving +1 to wound rolls is something that we have no access in our army in any other way.
Yeah,
And it
subtracting
can
one. Yeah.
pair up
Yeah.
really good, really great with Shining Company. So if you make an opponent be -1 to hit and -1 to wound, it can be crippling. But again, it will be it will have to be used properly and while taking care, because he is fragile.
Yeah.
It's not that he can die in combat if the opponent actually diverts towards him a proper fighting
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, his damage is also quite reliable, hitting on 2s and then 3s, and then a 3 Ren makes him actually quite, reliable damage-wise. It's not very spiky, as in the damage is not amazing, I would say, but it's at least reliable overall. We'll look at some stats in a second. He's also a War Master, which makes him an interesting pick as your general, especially because, things being in your general regiment now are something that you need to take you need to keep in mind if you're playing in the current GHB. So having him as an optional War Master to maybe swap out with Teclis, for example, so that Teclis doesn't have to be your general, is actually quite nice. Okay, let's take a look at the Wind Mage then, if you're fine with that.
Sure.
Okay. So the Wind Mage, he has a 3-star rating for several reasons. He's quite fairly priced, I feel, 150 for, a 5-up save, but 12-inch move, which is nice. He's a one-cast wizard as he used to be, and he got the teleport spell, which is nice because his War Scroll spell from last edition was absolutely useless. I tried using it just for kicks at some point, and it never worked out for me. Did you ever get any benefit out of that?
No, no. The only time I actually benefited from it were the very few battles that I used Teclis.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
Uh,
so he got the transporting vortex now, which used to be in the wind lore, but is now on his war scroll, and they actually lowered the casting value from I think it was a 9 or an 8,
it was an 8.
an
It was
8
an 8.
to 7 now, but they changed the ability a little bit. So you used to be able to pick any unit where not any unit, but any unit in range. Now the unit cannot be in combat. But apart from that, everything has stayed the same, and a 7 is a massive difference when it comes to casting spells compared to an 8. Especially if you think about things like magical intervention, that obviously decreases your spell casting by 1, so it would actually feel like you're trying to get an 8. But that's actually a really nice trick, right? If you place a unit in a fragile unit in front, and your opponent tries to charge it, and then you teleport them away with magical intervention, that's a really nice ability to have in your back pockets.
Yeah, yeah. This can be a great tech.
Yeah.
Great tech.
The only thing it's not very reliable on an 8. I would feel much better about the 7, about it still being a 7, but I can't complain.
Yeah, and what adds salt to the wound is the fact that I don't have a teleport spell such as this on a 6 and unlimited. So yeah, it's still worse than the other teleports, but it's better than before for sure, and easier to actually be able to cast it.
Yeah. Yeah, he also has the Wind Leap ability now. Slight alteration from what he used to be. So you pick a friendly Hurakan, wind charge you in your movement phase and hold it within 12 inches. And 67% of the time you add 3 inches to the target's move characteristic for the rest of the turn. So you don't actually get it for 2 turns anymore. And the target now has Fly, which is nice. Fly actually got a little bit of an upgrade because now you can move through combat ranges of enemy units, which is nice. We will get into the usefulness of Wind Leap when we look at Hurakan Wind Charge, because I don't feel like it's interesting enough, to talk about it now without seeing some actual Wind Charger battle scrolls, war scrolls.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but overall, I think if you can squeeze him in, he would do well both inside the Hurakan list, but also outside of it. I feel like he's pretty good still.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be 120 points or something. 150 are a bit too much for a single cast wizard.
Yeah. The thing is, in a Hurakan list, he's worth 150, but outside of a Hurakan list, he's worth 120 maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's a very specific unit, and I mean, he's not as fast as he was. He used to be.
I was just gonna say that.
Which is a bit of a bummer because it gave him an extra utility to go and grab an objective at a later turn.
Yeah.
Which I mean, now it can be possible, but it won't be as easy.
Yeah, it feels a little bit mean, to be honest. I don't see why they had to nerf his movement, especially because lore-wise, he needs to stay in range of those wind charges, right? And it's going to be so difficult to keep up with them once you start buffing them, as we will see in one of our last slides here. So, yeah, I think you're going to add his wind leap once or twice, and then they're going to be out of range or dead.
Yeah, I think probably only once, unless you have multiple units of wind chargers.
And that's why I kind of feel bad about the fact that it's only on a 3+. I don't feel like it's strong enough to be on a 3+.
Yeah, this is the same problem that the Stone Mage has. It's only 3-up. I just perhaps it's the spike persona in me, but I don't like these kind of abilities. I prefer to have some limitations, but be always something you can rely, because okay, you want to get a battle tactic, all right? So you may need your wind charges to be able to fly and also get the extra movement. So what, am I gonna gamble my battle tactic on a 3-up?
Yep.
No. So it will be just a nice bonus, and I don't think you can count on it. So it dampens my enthusiasm a bit.
Yeah, I feel, you know, especially since they lost their entire lore that they had access to. I feel like it would have been totally fair for a 150 points wizard to have this as an auto ability, but you know, here we are complaining about the little things as Lumineth players do. Okay, let's check out some Spirits of the Wind and then move on to the wind charts because they are quite juicy as well. Now, Spirit of the Winds, we've talked about extensively in the index review because this was one of your chosen units, Siegfried, but we can cover it once again here. So quite a bit cheaper than Sevireth, 110 points cheaper to be exact. And they actually get a lot of the same stuff that he does. So they have 2 wounds less, but same save, same ward, same control value, all that stuff. They have the exact same Spirit of the Wind ability. Their rampage is sort of the same. Sevireth picks 3 units. The Spirit of the Wind only picks 1, and they don't subtract 1 from wound rolls.
I feel the Spirit of the Wind will be even less likely than Sevireth to actually be in combat, unless it's again a really small hero with 1 or 2 wounds left or something.
Yeah,
because this ability doesn't debuff the enemy, so you really, unless it is a situation as I just described, I don't see a reason you actually want to go in combat and roll that D3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you know, apart from that, it's probably not why you're taking him anyway, right? Getting him into combat is kind of useless because it does so very little. But he is still an amazing movement piece, and you actually had some hidden tech that you shared in the index, and I guess we can share it here now as well. It was mostly concerning his damage when it came to monsters. So he does flat out 3 damage when it comes to monsters, which is on average actually the exact same amount of damage as Sevireth's damage, D3 plus 1. So Sevireth has that spike potential, but if we look at the damage chart here, you can actually see that when you compare the damage values from Sevireth with the Spirit of the Wind versus a monster, they're exactly the same. But other than that, if it's not against a monster, it's quite a bit weaker.
Yeah, I believe that the main reason that you will have Spirits of the Wind in a list is for monster hunting, and there is some gas if you use Sevireth plus 2 wind spirits, or if you use one of those heroes who can have any Lumineth unit, and you want to save some points, you want those 110 points,
Yeah,
you can just have 3 units of Spirits of the Wind, because versus monsters it will be
it's
the same as
Yeah.
having Sevireth. And there is another thing. One of the main allures of Sevireth is the fact that he cannot be targeted with shooting. But if you have Sevireth plus 2 Spirits of the Wind, well, the opponent will shoot the Spirits of the Wind, and he will get his mana's value from his shooting units. So Sevireth may not be cannot be targeted, but the spirits will be. So why not have just 3 spirits? If you only aim to do monster hunting and you are able to bring a hero that is able to have any Lumineth units he wants, it's a go. I mean, you can have Elania and Elathor, for example, and have 3 spirits of the wind in their regiment.
Yep.
And all's well. So there are some hidden tech about using Sevireth or not, depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, you actually did some math for that as well for the 3 Fox lists on the next slide here. So you can see that overall, that will actually kill quite a lot of monsters, like in one go. What do I mean by that? Keep in mind that there's more monsters now, as in there's smaller units, weaker units that have become monsters, like Sevireth, but also Lady of the Vines, for example, is also a monster now with less wounds. But you usually don't see a lot of monsters with more than 16 health and better than a 3-up save. So considering that, if you look at the 3-up save and then the damage next to it, you would usually kill a monster outright. For example, if Teclis doesn't have a ward, I mean, even with his wards, these 3 foxes might actually kill him outright in a lot of situations. Now it is quite pricey if you add Sevireth to that. It's 830 points for those 3 foxes. If you leave Sevireth out, it's 720, which is still pricey, but you've got 3 foxes then to do all your battle tactics and stuff with as well.
Correct. So it's not like monster hunting will be the only thing you will be doing.
Yeah.
They are still capable enough to get the objectives from small heroes, from screens, do your battle tactics. I mean, even the normal spirits of the mountain, they still count as 5, just as Sevireth.
Spirit of the Wind?
So, yeah, Spirit of the Wind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They can still score 5 for control. So I think they're a great choice. And the fact, I mean, if you use Sevireth or Spirit of the Wind with wind chargers, you will have to keep the wind chargers close to them in order to be able to do all those run and shoot and retreat and all that shenanigans. But the Spirits of the Wind, they're autonomous. They can do it on their own.
Yeah.
They don't need to be all clustered together to do your thing.
Yeah. I think if you're bringing 3 Spirits of the Wind, then you're probably not bringing any other Hurakan stuff, because then it's gonna get very pricey and you don't need that much movement in your list. It's way too much.
Yeah, and I mean, this can always be modified, and you can, instead of a Spirit of the Wind or instead of Sevireth, you can bring 20 Sentinels.
Yeah.
And have a bit of more static, more DPS heavy unit to supplement.
Yeah, that would actually be really good. 2 foxes and 20 sentinels.
Yeah.
Nice combo. I think I would actually lean more towards the wind chargers myself, but I like this idea of having those 3 foxes. It's very book 2 Lumineth vibes.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that they have 18 inches versus 14 of the wind chargers gives them an edge on in terms of you can retreat 18 inches, which makes it really hard for the opponent to catch them. While wind chargers will have a bit more difficult time.
Yeah, and wind charge damage is also quite pathetic, so you don't take him for the damage either. So, points wise, if you have the points, it's probably safer to invest it in 2 foxes than in wind chargers.
Yes, if you want to go aggressively, because wind chargers, as we will see, have also a bit of a tankiness to take advantage of.
Yeah, let's talk about the wind chargers if you're done with the Spirits of the Wind.
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, guys, by the way, if you want to hear more about the Spirits of the Wind, you can check out the Lumineth Index review that we did on Friday, or that was released on Friday. So here we are with the Wind Chargers. I actually rated them 4 out of 5 stars, Siegfried, because I'm super hyped about this unit for several reasons. I made a very cool animated slide here in a couple of slides, so you have that to look forward to. They are quite pricey though, 170. Pricier than they used to be, but they are also more versatile than they used to be. If you look at their war scroll, it's actually nothing to write home about, or not a lot to write home about at least. It's pretty nice that they have 3 health and they have a 4-up save now compared to the 5 that they used to have. Their wind charger bow has now 3 shots, which is better than their previous profile, but has less rend. And their melee output has, wilted away completely. The fact that they have the wind charger arrows still that ignore ward rolls was a bit of a feel bad for me when we first did the review back then, when it was only the trial game that we had seen from the grandmaster, the grand tournament players there. But now, with seeing how many ward saves there are in the game, I actually think this might come in handy a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, ward save are more prominent.
Yeah,
Than
and
they
the
were.
bodyguard
I
rule
mean,
is also a ward save now.
yeah, yeah. So it's and I mean, many units most of the time have a zigzag ward, but even then, it's more damage, and it's the psychological threat to the
Yeah.
opponent. The fact that you can ignore ward saves, which has a chance to push them in making more mistakes, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if they haven't done the Mad Hammer to see that the wind charges actually don't do that much damage. But
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're already happy with the ward scroll, then you're going to be even more amazed when you see what they actually can do on the table movement wise, because you don't really take him for their damage outputs. You take him for their insane movement at times, but also for their survivability. As you said, Siegfried, reinforcing this unit is 30 wounds on a 4-up save. And if you tag an enemy unit from the sides, they only pile in 3 inches and 3-inch combat range. Not everything will get to fight into this unit necessarily, and if they survive, they can retreat and still do their thing. They also have power through usually because they have 3 health now, usually overpowering a lot of other units. So pretty interesting unit, and they're a great target for all different kinds of buffs, which I want to get into in a couple of seconds. Is there anything else you want to specifically mention about the War Scroll Seek before we look at their damage output and their movement shenanigans?
No, just the fact that they are two high skill unit.
Yeah.
As the River Blades.
Yeah, which you mentioned in part 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So rookie players will have more trouble using them and may feel disappointed at first. But if you give them time and train yourself to actually be able to take advantage of their utility, I think you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very, very interesting unit. I kind of love what they did with them. Feels so very potent, but as you said, super high skill level. Okay, let's take a look at some movement shenanigans. So I did this animation here, Seek, and I'm super hyped for the movement shenanigans extreme edition. So at base, they move 14 inches, but as I mentioned, they absorb quite a lot of buffs pretty easily. For example, the speed of Hitch buff, which is on a 5 to cast and unlimited, so you could cast it on different units, increases their movement characteristic by 4, thus bringing them up to 18 inches. If you add Wind Leap on top of that, 67% of the time from the Wind Mage, you bump up their movement to 21 inches. So that's already super impressive and outclassing a Fox. Now, obviously, you could also do the speed of Hitch on the Foxes and then they would still win, but not Wind Leap. So that's interesting. You could still run them as well, because if they're within 12 inches of a Fox, then they can still run and shoot and charge and whatever they want. So, don't hold back if you manage to stay within 12 inches of wholly within 12 inches of a Wind Spirit. Bring their movement up to 22 inches or maybe even 27. You could spend a command point here to make it auto 6, so guaranteeing yourself that 27. But that's not everything then. That's the movement phase. So you've moved 27 inches in this movement phase if you wanted to. And you got all of the buffs off, obviously. It's the extreme edition as Siegfried, so this is the best case scenario. Yeah. In your shooting phase, you can first shoot or even choose not to shoot, and then use the move like the Wind Facet of War to move once again. And that move will be their move characteristic at that specific time, which could go from 14 up to 21 inches. So if you've done all of those insane other buffs, and you've done your speed of Hitch, your Wind Leap, your run for 27 inches, then you've shot and you still manage to stay within range of a Wind Spirit, you can then move 21 inches yet again before the charge phase comes up, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's
Okay, then they've landed somewhere, right? We're 48 inches further now than we were in at the start of our turn. Then it's a charge phase. You obviously roll 2d6 charge. You might make that roll or you might not. Charging isn't necessarily the best idea for them, but if you see a weak unit that you can tag, why not? And as you mentioned, Siegfried, they can be quite tanky. But then we're not done. After you've fought, and hopefully there's some units that have survived, you can also use power through at the end of any turn. So also in your opponent's turn, if you wanted to. Since they have 3 health, they have a lot of targets to use power through on. Moving those wind chargers, their movement characteristic once again, which could be 14 at their base, but could still be the 21 inches that you got from Speed of Fish and Wind Leap on top of that. You could move them forwards, backwards, wherever you want to go, and inflict D3 mortal damage while you're at it. And the retreat, it doesn't even count as a retreat, so you could actually move them backwards as well, or something. You want to go wherever you want to go, right? So all in all, if you add everything up, best case scenario, obviously, that's 81 inches in one turn if everything is maxed out.
Yeah, so you can begin from the center of your deployment zone,
Yep.
go to one flank, shoot targets, and end the turn on the other flank,
Yeah, other side of the table. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. You're like battle tactic. I'm gonna take that flank, and then you're moving to the other flank. Your opponent's like, oh my god, I'm playing against this total noob. And then you're like, well, I'm adding Speed of Fish, I'm adding Wind Leap, I'm running them. Then I'm still shooting because I'm within 12 inches of a Wind Spirit. I'm charging back to the middle of the board. Then I'm powering through to the other side of the board, and here I am for taking the flanks. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now, obviously, this is best case scenario. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. It's an 83% chance of getting that Speed of Fish off, I think, without any casting buffs, and only a 67% chance to get the Wind Leap and thus also fly, which is actually amazing on them because they could move through all the combat ranges. But all the other stuff is pretty much guaranteed, right? The move like the wind, the charges, the power through. It is insane. And to be honest, most of this stuff, except for the Wind Leap, you could just as well do with the Wind Spirits.
Yeah. But it's not that. Perhaps it won't be that impactful.
Yeah.
With the Wind Spirit, but again, it depends. It depends because they count as 5. The Wind Spirit counts as 5, but they're 14 wounds. They're less expensive.
Yeah.
So because with the Wind Spirit, you actually are going to kill things. You don't just use it for the movement shenanigans.
Yeah.
But a unit of 5 of this you can use only for the movement shenanigans, and 170 points is not cheap, but it's not expensive enough so that it will ruin your day if they get killed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm really loving them so far. In my list that I made for the index, I had Sevireth and 2 of these units as my general's regiment. I was actually unsure whether I wanted to have one big unit of them to have priority target on them, because it actually increases their damage by quite a lot. And they're a great target for it as well. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now, just some notes here on this insane movement shenanigan edition here. Speed of Fish is an ability that remains throughout your opponent's turn as well, so you would still retain that 4-inch to your movement. Wind Leap isn't, though. Charging and Power Through are both abilities that you could do in your opponent's turn. So, for example, the 2d6-inch counter charge or the 18 Power Through is still available during your opponent's turn as well. And there's free retreats with no damage and or running and still shooting and charging and all that stuff within range of Wind Spirits and Sevireth. So, it's crazy. I think it'll be hard for any opponent to keep track of what you can actually manage with these Hurakan units. Not only the Wind Spirits, all the Hurakan units, if he doesn't actually play Lumineth himself. It is extreme.
and I mean the Hurakan side of this index is one of the biggest wins.
Yeah, design-wise, it's amazing. It really fills the gap that the old Speed of Fish left.
Yeah, it's better, and it's better because it gives you flexibility.
Yeah.
And I mean, Hurakan units were, in my opinion, I mean, really badly designed.
Mm-hmm.
The only time that they were actually good was initially with a certain battalion, which most people want to erase from their memories, most likely.
Yeah.
Which again, it was the ability of that battalion was toxic, and it was a good thing that it went away. But in the previous battle tome, they never actually replaced it with something useful. So that was the biggest fail, and something that made most Lumineth players, I think, sad about the Wind Temple
Yeah, for
as a
sure,
whole.
for sure. Yeah, they really nail it with the Wind Temple this time, and it. I love that we also have the Drill and River Blaze to choose from. I'm like, what do you want, the red pill or the blue pill? Because they're both very good in their own regard. So I do think they vie a little bit for this position, though. I like if you're bringing 2 units of Wind Charge, like I was for my index list. I'm not bringing any river blades, even though I really love them, because it's too much movement at some point, right? You need some sturdiness as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And I mean, you can do both.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could do one of the
But
two if
in
you
a
wanted to.
splash, you can have a Hurakan Temple and still splash a single unit of
Yeah.
Orbital Blades.
Yeah. To finish off on a low note, though, I included the damage for 1 wind charge unit of 5 here. Just to clarify that when Siegfried and I talk about the fact that they don't do any damage, we are not overreacting. A normal 5 model wind charges unit will on average deal 3.33 wounds to a 4-up save.
Yeah,
That's not
it's
a lot.
no, it's pretty low, almost inconsequential.
Yeah. Now the numbers will be a little bit higher because I did not include the champions attack in here. But it gets a little bit more interesting, Siegfried, when you think about a big unit of 10 with priority target on them. Then they actually start doing, some nice damage and are still threatening in combat as well. But yeah, they must be in your general's regiment and they become a good target for priority target too, though. So there is that.
Yes, but you can go make your priority target shooting and be on your way. So
Yeah.
it is they will have a better time using priority target, and the opponent will have a much more difficult time actually catching them to uh, to use their priority target on them. So I think it will be fine. It will be
Yeah.
fine. It's a good
They could
uh,
actually also be an
good
interesting
unit.
bodyguard if your Spirit of the Wind or your Sevireth, for example, does get caught out at some point. People usually need to charge him because he has that 9-inch shooting free bubble. Having these units around him as a bodyguard to lower the attack value is actually also quite a nice ability.
Yeah, and these guys are the best unit perhaps the best unit we have for the battle tactic to get the short sides of the battlefield.
Oh yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
remember the name
Take the flanks.
of the tactic. Yeah, take flanks. So I think all in all, they are a great unit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we will see them in lists.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy that you're as much in love with them as I am because I'm so hyped to use these guys. I think I'll make so many mistakes with them though. I'm playing Ryan this weekend. I mean, by the time that this video comes out, we will already have played our games, but I'm bringing the 2x5 wind chargers and I'm very curious how they'll do.
Yeah, well, it will be a trial and error initially because
Yeah.
I believe most people will be so tempted to actually go nuts with the with the movement.
Yeah.
Uh, and sometimes it will be more than that it is needed. But again, as we said, these are high skill units, but at the same time very rewarding.
Yeah.
Actually being able to use them and make your plans and make your strategies a reality will be, I believe, 100 times more rewarding than having that damn castle slogging through the battlefield, as it was in from the beginning of the inception of Lumineth up until now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, well, okay, yeah, sure, of course. I included this calculation that you made as well, just for a quick comparison here between the other ranged units that we have. I'm not going to get into it too much because we talked about this extensively during our Venari video for the Sentinels. But you can see if you want range damage, anything is better than wind charges, basically. Sevireth outclasses them in most situations, and Sentinels definitely do. So, yeah, a combination of both is probably the juiciest thing.
Yeah, I think a little bit of everything, and that is also something that is great about our index. I don't see any unit that is wholly and utterly spammable.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, interesting. I'm in love with the Hurakan Temple so far. I don't want to leave home without them unless I'm bringing River Blades and Dawn Riders already.
Yeah, and I mean, as the meme says, why not both?
Yep.
No.
Well, guys, that's the end of the video, and also the end of this video series of Lumineth Warscroll breakdowns. Siegfried, huge thank you for accompanying me on this journey through all the Warscrolls. You've also joined me and Ryan for the Index. If you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. Sieg, we'll be hearing much more from you. If people want to get in touch with you, they can find you both in the Lumineth Discord and in our own Discord, on Stratigo Discord. But you probably also read the comments from now and then, right?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, please leave a comment and a like. It's the best way to show us your support. You've been hugely supportive and enthusiastic about all the content that we've been pushing out in the last couple of days. There's obviously a lot of noise on the interwebs right now about all the new stuff that's coming out. We've tried to make this a little bit distinctive, as in very typical Stratigo-y, with a lot of stats, even though we're missing our premium statistician Ryan to do all the calculations for us. We still try to mimic his approach to things a little bit. And we brought our own Jonas and Siegfried flavor to the reviews as well. But if you want to stay in touch for other content that's also coming, please subscribe, because we're kind of done with the first obvious Lumineth content so far. I'll get into more specific Lumineth content after I've play tested them a little bit more. But I think after this video series, we'll be probably moving on to another army as well. I think Ryan has some plans for that. So keep an eye out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.